Hello students, today we're going to go over notes on 2.1, which is graphing linear equations. We're going to do this using tables today. So for the first problem, we have y equals 1/2 x. We're going to complete the xy table to graph it. So notice they gave us values for x. We're going to plug those in one at a time to find our y values. So to do that, using y equals 1/2 x, I substitute. So I have y equals 1/2, and I'll replace x with the first value, which is -2. Now, to multiply these together, put -2 over 1. So you get y equals -2 divided by 2. So your y value is -1 when x is -2. And I go ahead and put it in the table. We are going to want to show our work like this for every x value. So for the next one, y equals 1/2 times 0. Well, 0 times anything is just 0. So when x is 0, y is 0. For the next one, y equals 1/2 times +2. I'll put that +2 over 1 and multiply straight across. This gives me 2 over 2, so y equals 1. For the next one, y equals 1/2 times 4. Same process of putting the whole number over 1 and multiplying straight across to give me 4 divided by 2, which means my y value is 2. And for the last one, y equals 1/2 of 6. Following the same process, I get 6 over 2, so my y value is 3. So now I have an xy table that represents a bunch of points on this graph. If it's more helpful for you, you can rewrite this xy table as so. If you write it this way, then it shows your points in the correct order, and you can just go down the line. See, if you put parentheses around each one of these are the points you need to plot. So for the first point, we have -2, -1. So for x, we go left 2. For the y, we go down 1. For 0, 0, we're just at the middle. We don't go anywhere. For +2, 1, we go right 2 and then up 1. 4, 2 means we go right 4, up 2. And for 6, 3, we go right 6, up 3. This is how your line or your graph should look with these points. This is to label the y-intercept here. So to do that, I'm going to find where our graph crosses the y-axis, and that is our y-intercept. So for this one, it is at 0, 0. I'm going to go ahead and connect these points with a line with arrows on both ends. Then the last thing it says to do here is show the differences in x and y values on the table. So on the table, if you notice, the x values go up by 2. And the y values go down up by 1. Okay, so looking at the graph, the y value does go up by 1 from each point. So if I start at this point, I go up 1. The y value changes by 1. The x value goes over 2, changes by 2. And that continues for each one. And that's no coincidence. Later we're going to learn about slope, and this is essentially what the slope is. So that's all we're doing for that example. For the next example, we're following the same process with a different equation. So I'm going to begin by plugging in these x values one at a time to find my y values. Y equals 3 times -1 plus 2. We will use order of operations, so 3 times -1 is -3, and -3 plus 1 is, or -3 plus 2 is -1. For the next x value, I have 3 times 0 plus 2. 3 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 2 is 2. Then for the next one, y equals 3 times 1 plus 2. So I get 3 plus 2, which is 5. For the next one, y equals 3 times 2 plus 2. So I get 6 plus 2, which is 8. And for the last one, y equals 3 times 3 plus 2. So 9 plus 2, which is 11. Okay, so I plugged in the x values one at a time to find my y values for each point. These are all our points, and we're going to plot those. So the first point is -1, -1. That means I go left 1, down 1. Next, I have 0, 2. So that means I don't go anywhere for x, but for y, I go up 2. The next one is 1, 5, which means I go right 1, and then I go up 5. Then we have 2, 8. So I go right 2, up 8. And that last one is 3, 11. So I go right 3, up 11, which is going to be off our graph for this one. I'm going to draw my line with my arrow. And that's it for graphing it. Now we do need to complete these next two things. The first one is identifying the y-intercept. Note that's where you're crossing this y-axis. Okay. So we do cross that y-axis right at this point here. So our y-intercept is 0, 2. Next, we need to show the differences in x and y values on the table and then on the graph. So on the table, the x's go up by 1. And the y's go up by 3. So if we look, starting at this first point here, the y value does go up by 3, and the x value does go over 1 for each one. Up 3, right 1. Okay, so that's all we had to do for that problem. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. We're following the same process again. So I'm going to start by finding my y values. Y equals, x is -1 plus 5. -1 plus 5 is 4. Y equals 0 plus 5, so I get 5. Y equals 1 plus 5, so 6. Y equals 2 plus 5, which is 7. Y equals 3 plus 5, which is 8. Okay, so now I have all the points I need to plot. I'm going to go ahead and graph these. The first one is that -1, 4. So left 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one is 0, 5. So I don't go anywhere for x, but I'm going to go up 5 on the y-axis. For the third point, it's 1, 6. So I go right 1, up 6. Then we have 2, 7, and 3, 8. I'll go ahead and connect these with a line with arrows on either end. Now the next step says to label the y-intercept. That's where we cross the y-axis. So in this case, our y-intercept is 0, 5. Now notice 5 is the number at the end. That's no coincidence. Then it says to show the differences in x and y values on the table and the graph. Well, x's go up by 1, and y's go up by 1. Okay, so look at our graph. Starting at the leftmost point, it does go up 1 and over 1, up 1 and over 1. So there's a change of 1 and 1 for x and for y. And that's it for this problem. Okay, here's the last one. This one's a little trickier. There's just a y value. It tells us y is -2. So this is as if x is being multiplied by 0, right? Because there's no x value. So 0 times x is 0, which would leave us y equals -2. Okay, so what this means is no matter what our x value is, our y value will always be -2. So whenever they tell you y equals a number, that number you'll just plug in over and over again for your y. And then we can plot those points. So -1, -2, 0, -2, 1, -2, 2, -2, and 3, -2. Notice it creates a horizontal line. Whenever it's y equals a number, it will always create a horizontal line like this. So next, to identify the y-intercept, we look where we cross the y-axis, and that is at 0, -2. Notice there is no difference in the x and y values on the chart. Oops, I'm sorry. In the y values, there's no difference, but in the x values, we go up 1. Okay, so now I'm looking at this second part, right? I just checked the differences in our values. Well, if you look at the points, we don't go up and down for y. Y doesn't change at all, but we do go over 1 each time for x. Okay. So that's it for notes today. You just need to be used to plugging in numbers for x and solving for y, then plotting those points to create a line. If you have any questions, be sure to contact your teacher.